Hello, my name is Leo Cerda. I am the founder of the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement. Thank you for coming. We believe that climate justice is racial justice, and that's why we have invited our guests to speak about what is racial justice and what does it mean
the
for their
protector
territory.
uh,
Hello. Hello. Good. Yeah. So I want to introduce Cinemales from the community of
more
Otavalo
and then-
in Ecuador. Natasha Sima from Fridays for Future, Uganda. Ah, Patricia Saldi from Fridays for Future, Uganda. Maria Jose Andrade from the Haku Project in Ecuador. And I want to start by saying this. We all know that, that colonization is the root cause of climate change because colonization has started the dispossession of our peoples and our territories and the destruction of our resources. That is why it has led to climate inequality, economical inequality, races, and class. So that's why we believe that we will not accomplish climate justice without, first of all, accomplishing racial justice. We have more. We have a
How
COP
do
in
you do that in
Africa right
practice?
now. We have one of the 10 most affected countries that will come from Africa. And what is the world is doing, and how are they going to execute
Us,
climate
joining
policies,
an
and
organization.
how are the governments going to help us to adapt their policies to give direct financiation to our countries to directly adapt and give us, and because we have given them the solutions, and the solutions are coming from our territories and from our cosmovision and from our communities. And I'm gonna start with Patricia. What is racial justice for you, and what does it mean for your territories?
Thank you so much.
within the code.
My name
That's-
is
that's not-
Patricia. My name is Patricia Sally from Fridays for Future Uganda. To me, racial justice is treating people equally, people of different races,
it-
blacks, people of color,
Or,
Africans, Afro-descent, indigenous people. Racial justice to me is treating all races equally. Thank you.
Sydney,
Thumbs up.
mean racial justice for you towards accomplishing on behavior funding for indigenous communities?
Okay, I'm going to speak in Spanish because it's our colonization language. So I'm going to empezar con un refrán que es Runashimi tukur Runashimi guanyurpica tukur runakunami chingarishu. Esa es nuestra lengua indígena del Ecuador, Kichwa, y es un referente muy importante para nosotros como quichuas, como personas indígenas, personas racializadas que vivimos y sobrevivimos dentro de una sociedad racista y que también estamos sufriendo sobre todo el tema del cambio climático.
I'm going to start with a phrase from my native language, Kichwa, a native language from Ecuador. For us, it's really important to talk about how colonization and all of the issues are affecting us, living in a racialized, racist world as racialized people. And
Nosotros venimos de los Andes. Yo soy una mujer indígena de los Andes. Mis compañeros vienen de la Amazonía y todos estamos unidos, más fuertes también con la comunidad afrodescendiente, trabajando con el proyecto de Black Indigenous Liberation Movement para poder ejecutar proyectos.
I'm coming from Los Andes in Peru, and
From Ecuador.
Ecuador, sorry. I'm coming from Los Andes in Ecuador, and my companions are from the Amazonian. also in Ecuador. And we are united with African Voices to create this movement called the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement. That is a project. And
Any more questions?
Y estamos aquí para poder alzar nuestra voz como personas racializadas, jóvenes que estamos emprendiendo en la lucha ante todo este cambio climático y especialmente las violaciones de derechos que hemos estado recibiendo en nuestras comunidades. Gracias.
And we are here as Russia to raise the issues that are happening in our communities of oppression and that are happening in our communities.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrade. I'm from the Kichwa community of Serena. I'm also working with the Haku project. And I'm here because, as you see, I can speak in English. My people in my community barely knows this language. They even don't know Spanish. So I'm here because they gave me the opportunity to be here. And I'm here also because I'm a woman, I'm the youth, and we need more of these spaces to speak up. If no one speaks for us, if I don't speak for my people, nobody else is going to speak for them. So I'm here for that. And as you see, youth around the world are being here, but indigenous representation is still lacking. Why is that? Why do we have to put indigenous peoples in the back? Haku means let's go together. Everyone is in the same place. No one is left behind. So that's our main goal in life, to be together as a community, because our indigenous values are those. And that's the reason that governments, companies, they forgot about this vision. Since they colonize us, they try to make us like them, to be assimilated like them. And we have to stop that, because that started climate crisis. That's why we have climate crisis right now. And main of this reason is because indigenous peoples are not in negotiations. Even we are not in the States, because there's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of racism, and that's because of the form of education. I heard a lot of people here in a lot of panels saying that education is the form. But what kind of education indigenous peoples have? In my community, we have just one professor for around 30 kids. How is that possible? How they can get around and gather and talk about climate change, and if one professor is with them, just one teacher, with kids from ages from 8 years old to 12 years old. So there's no recognition of that kind of inequalities. And that's the reason why we are here, because our processes were a little bit different from them. I had the chance to study and to learn a new language. But I have to remind that I have my own traditions in my community. I'm still saying that I'm from an indigenous community because I'm proud of that. However, governments try to take that away from us, and we have to change that reality. That's why the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement is really important for us. So I think one of the most important things that when we gathered in last October was really important, because we realized that we are not alone. Black communities have like really the same struggles that we have as well. No good education, no good health processes. So we are facing this kind of things just because of our color, because of our origins. It's not fair. And now we are here because we are kind of the hope of our communities. Our children in our communities, our kids, are seeing us as role models. And if we are doing this, it's because of them. Because I want to have kids in the future, and I don't want them to struggle like I did. So it's really important for us that also youth from around the world understand that indigenous peoples, indigenous youth have to be represented here in this kind of spaces. And our reality is a little bit different, but we are here. We're still here. And I guess we form an alliances here. As you see, we are women, and still we have our hope that we can create a better future. Thanks.
Our work is intersectional, and I feel like our work has to be intergenerational, because in order to accomplish climate justice, we need to accomplish racial justice, and we need to accomplish climate social justice, and we need to tackle inequalities coming by economic inequalities, racial inequalities, class inequalities, and that starts with us. That's why we need the government to listen to us. I want to know, Patricia, what has been your experiences working with the youth and starting climate for Fridays for Future in Uganda, and what do you think is the demand for you at this COP that is happening in Africa?
Thank you so much. As a youth, as an African youth, I have not got so many platforms to share my views, but I'm happy that this is here and I'm speaking. Back home in Uganda, as Fridays for Future Uganda, we try to raise both young women's voices and males, because we promote gender equality. Then as about my activism, yes, I began my activism back then in 2019, and here I am. So thank you so much, Black, Indigenous, and Liberation Movement, for this platform. And my demands for this COP27, since it's happening in Africa, I'm seeking for an anti-racial, anti-colonial, and an all-inclusive COP. We as young youth activists from Uganda and Africa at large, and the indigenous communities, for example, in Latin America, we seek to be included. Our decisions, our resolutions and decisions have to also to be included in the final statements that will be made in this year's COP27. Thank you so much.
So, yeah,
He's going to speak now. He can speak now. I am going to introduce our co-worker, our fellow friend, and our fellow campaigner. And our fellow campaigner for the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement, Emilio Chong, that is going to speak now.
And how do you feel? Or are you there yet? Is it
¿Se escucha?
Sí.
Muy bien, bueno, muchas gracias por este espacio. Voy a hablar despacio para la traducción. Es un placer estar participando en esta COP farsa, mentirosa y que no llega a nada, pero reconocer la lucha de los pueblos que nos organizamos para hacer escuchar nuestra voz, hacer escuchar nuestras luchas. Soy del pueblo Wankavilka, que viene frente al mar, que hemos resistido, igual que todos los pueblos que están ahí, Aichisi, Guarmipunas, que están ahí, mis hermanas, mis hermanos de la Amazonía, de Uganda, mis hermanos enracimados. Tenemos experiencia en resistencia, en lucha, en todos nuestros territorios, y cuando vamos a la COP, realmente sabemos que no se llega a los propósitos planteados, pero entendemos también que es un buen espacio para poder fortalecer y visualizar nuestras luchas. Los jóvenes, los adultos, los viejos, todos tenemos esperanzas en que se pueda tener un impacto en los gobiernos. Pero sabemos que ni en nuestros países tenemos un impacto en los gobiernos. Más bien, yo les invito a visualizar los trabajos que sí hemos hecho como BILM. Querían una respuesta de los pueblos, tenemos muchas respuestas. El BILM ha venido fortaleciéndose que a través del pueblo negro e indígena, en esa unión que no se ha dado por muchos años por derechas dentro de nuestros propios movimientos, por egoísmo por dentro de nuestros propios movimientos, que hoy por hoy se están disminuyendo gracias a la fuerza de los jóvenes, gracias a la fuerza de las compañeras, gracias a la sabiduría de los taitas que nos comienzan a unir. Y hoy podemos decir que el BILM se está fortaleciendo no solamente en el discurso, sino en la acción. Y esa acción es bastante importante destacar. Gracias a los compañeros que están allá en el panel, pueden dar justamente claras señales del trabajo realizado. No vengo a hablar sobre el agua, de los pajaritos, de los árboles, de algunas cosas que ya sabemos, porque el público que nos está escuchando ya sabe eso, está seguro que lo sabe y está en ese momento crítico y importante de que lo sabe. Lo que queremos decirles es que nos podemos unir más y fortalecer esta alianza negra indígena con los trabajos. Tuvimos el último congreso en Ecuador, fue bastante importante, tejer grandes lazos y quizás en el futuro, en la futura COP o en la siguiente COP, tener un documento firmado por todos los pueblos negros e indígenas, unirnos para escribir un documento fuerte que tenga un impacto político para decirle a los gobiernos ya basta. Decirle a los gobiernos, no puedes manejar nuestros territorios como una mercancía que puedes vender en los mercados verdes, en los mercados de carbón, en las negociaciones donde tú te sientas a hablar a nombre de todas y todos nosotros. Es importante dejar esto en claro, porque los que van a la COP no van a pasear. Los que van a la COP no van a tener el espacio para ir a ver las pirámides. Tienen mucho trabajo por delante, tienen mucho trabajo a nombre de todos nosotros. Y es importante que los que están escuchando esto tengan esto en claro. Nosotros, los que estamos al otro lado de la pantalla, por diversas circunstancias, dejar marcada la línea de que es hora de que nos unamos para tener estos propósitos. Y el BILM es uno de ellos. El BILM, a través de sus 22 países y 160 organizaciones en toda la región, desde el norte del continente hasta el sur del continente, hemos podido unir. Entonces, me siento muy gustoso de estar aquí, no quiero gastar más tiempo para ver si hay otra ronda, el tiempo es muy valioso en estos espacios, y más bien pongámonos a decir las cosas que sí tenemos, como apagar los incendios de Brasil y Bolivia, los incendios del Amazonas. Esos son trabajos de pequeños grupos humanos, sin grandes financiamientos. Hemos logrado apaciguar lo que los gobiernos no pueden hacer. Eso lo hemos hecho con los grupos y las organizaciones indígenas que nos hemos aliado para hacer. Como también lo que es la educación anticolonial, que lo hemos hecho también con el BILM. El canal indígena, Muyu, es un canal que está creciendo desde las bases mismo para poder visualizar las noticias que no salen en otras partes del mundo, que ni las grandes corporaciones, con todo el dinero que se gasta en estos eventos, podríamos hacer algo, comprarnos un canal internacional. Imagínense el potencial que tendríamos si nos ponemos un ratito y boicoteemos este tipo de eventos que además nos gastan dineros a veces innecesarios. Y no digo que no participar, mandemos delegaciones, pero ya hay que darle la espalda. Así de tantito podemos boicotear y al mismo tiempo fortalecer nuestras propias ideas de base. Muchas gracias.
First of all, thank you for the space. It's a pleasure to be in this space. We need to recognize the fight of the people and the communities that are fighting for their and defending their rights on land. Sisters and brothers from the Amazon, from Ecuador, and from Uganda that join us today. We have experienced in resisting in our communities. Oh my God. And when we arrive at COP, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, we have experience in our communities. We are resisting, and when we arrive at COP, it is a space to talk and fight. Our all young and people are all one the same. That our rights of our land are respected. So we are inviting you to. Oh my God. To follow the lead of Black, Indigenous communities who from their land are joining and resisting, that even within problems like ego and stuff like that, and from governments have been getting smaller, they are still there and they're still fighting. Today, not only the discourses of the people who are negotiating for our future, we are still here, we are not going home, and even far apart, we are still fighting. He's not here to talk about water or birds or trees, but more about the stuff you need to know. We should unite and create change, especially you joining the communities, creating bridges and bonds, having and one of our hopes as a movement is having a document with political inputs created by Black and Indigenous leaders and groups that it's sent to governments and that it's included in the negotiations that are used to sell their land and their resources. The people at COP who are here have a lot of job ahead of them. That's something we need to recognize. And the people from the other side of the world, they are still fighting too, and they are here. 160 organizations have joined from the region in Latin America to ally and create Okay. 160 organizations and 22 countries have joined to create and talk about to create the Black Indigenous Coalition Liberation Movement. There are changes that happen by indigenous people that don't need financing, like getting the fires in the Amazon stopped. The indigenous people have been resisting and have managed to create not only that, but also decolonial education, such as radio and television movement. So there's a lot of hope and wishes that from little to little everything would be changed and we still resist with the communities.
Throw it back to footprint.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Emilio, for your voice. I want to welcome our friend, Natasha. And one of the key things that we want to speak about this afternoon and our last word is how can we make a cohesive, integrationally way and we move forward as a movement with the Black and Indigenous Coalition to accomplish true solidarity for our peoples and for the planet towards climate justice, towards racial justice, in order to accomplish that and what we can do in order to do that. Thank you. Whatever you want, and then
Thank you, Leo. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak on racial justice and intersectioning with climate justice. I think we all have to understand that without the intersection of racial justice and climate justice, there cannot be climate justice. We have to understand that we have to have inclusion and diversity to bring different people from different indigenous communities, different Afro-descendant, indigenous, and general communities that bring together one voice, that we have to bring a cohesive understanding and a human-centered approach where we all come together to know that everyone is valid, every single voice is valid within this climate action and climate and racial justice, stand. With that solidarity and that approach of oneness, we can then have a forward movement or like a cohesive journey, because the solutions are centered within indigenous communities. They've always had the answers to preserve nature, to preserve biodiversity, to preserve what our ancestors left for us. And in that understanding, we can only come together and have a single voice and then move forward to where exactly we want to see the future generations. So this COP is exactly where our voices are supposed to be heard, but we are not in the corridors of power, but we definitely are going to find a way to make sure that our key points and our passions are heard when it comes to reclaiming our languages, reclaiming our identities, reclaiming our nature and diversity, and seeing that we conserve the planet that we are on. So thank you. Thank you, Leo.
Okay, finally, I think I can say that for this COP, we want to the parties and to everyone to understand that for climate change, we should use a language that includes racial justice as well, because we don't want our children to be focused on how we can protect their nature and everything if they don't have access to school, to healthcare. So it's really important for us to include that kind of language. And I invite every one of you to follow what the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement and each organization is doing, because we are doing local work. Local work also matters. So it's really important to understand how climate change is affecting our communities, because it's not only about climate, it's about our rights as indigenous peoples, as Black people. So take into account that racial justice is climate justice. Thanks.
Yes, I am speaking as an African, as a Black woman, and as a Ugandan. So I'm speaking on behalf of our brothers from the indigenous communities and with our Black people, that we need to be included in whatever is happening. For example, here at COP27, we demand for an anti-racial, anti-colonial, anti-imperial COP27. So going forward, our suggestions need to be put into consideration, because we having a different color from our brothers and sisters from the global north does not make us different. We still remain human. So we need to be inclusive in whatever is being discussed here at COP27. As I conclude, we cannot have climate justice without racial justice, because we, the people from the global south and people from the indigenous communities, we are the most affected by climate crisis. Thank you so much.
Gracias por haber asistido a este pabellón y estar aquí presente escuchándonos a nosotros como jóvenes indígenas y jóvenes afrodescendientes. Creo que lo último que yo les puedo decir es que tenemos que apropiarnos de los espacios en donde se toman decisiones, en donde se escriben las resoluciones finales e involucrarnos activamente con nuestras localidades para así poder generar políticas desde nuestros espacios y trabajar en conjunto con las comunidades indígenas, con los jóvenes, que son los que más estamos proponiendo soluciones para este cambio climático. Muchas gracias a todos.
Hola.
First of all, I want to say thank you for coming and listening to us as Afro-descendants and indigenous people. One of the things that I want to say is that we have to take over the spaces where decisions are happening and where resolutions are being made. Also to ally with our indigenous communities to work with them and build solutions alongside with them. And work together with indigenous people and youth who are the ones that are right now are making the most progress and decision-making spaces. Because from there we can create political and actual action.
Emilio, ¿puedes hablar? Dar tu último mensaje.
Encerrados, que han venido luchando desde el inicio, mis hermanas de los Andes, los amo mucho, y de la Amazonía, que están ahí. Muy de acuerdo con ustedes, hay que tomarnos los espacios, pero para tomarnos hay que hacer estrategias, no solamente nuestras participaciones, sino ir con documentos consensuados en nuestras bases para poder ir a hablar. Estoy muy de acuerdo que tenemos que participar en las políticas locales. Ahorita venimos de Ginebra, justamente se está haciendo con el presidente de la CONAIE, Leonidas Issa, se ha venido realizando justamente las demandas internacionales en Suiza, y venimos atacando en todos los pabellones, en todos los espacios lo que venimos dando. Es más bien invitarnos a usar las plataformas, en este caso sería el BIL o muchas, donde está Majito, Majo Cerda, que también está representando a los jóvenes en varios espacios. Comenzar a puntualizar dónde y cómo vamos a atacar. Estar dentro de la mesa, no estar debajo de la mesa. Y si vamos a estar debajo de la mesa, joder al que está arriba, como grandes hormigas, como grandes yuturis, como grandes ejemplos de la naturaleza que podemos picar. Porque si nosotros y nosotras solamente nos dedicamos a hacer discursos y estar en lindos pabellones dando nuestra palabra, el impacto va a ser menor. Yo sí siento que el momento es ahora, la energía la tenemos ahora, las grandes constelaciones, hoy, eclipse, cambio, en Egipto, imagínense, un eclipse solar en Egipto justamente que simboliza muchas cosas, simboliza para nuestra Amazonía, para nuestra Sudamérica, para nuestro mundo, simboliza mucha fuerza y cambio. Es hora de romper, ir a las marchas, protestar, tomarse las tarimas y hablar y dar discursos consecuentes y aterrizados. Y para eso. Entonces, mi saludo a todos los pueblos que resisten, a las comunidades campesinas, negras, estudiantes, amas de casa que también están ahí, los jóvenes que están aquí al otro lado, los viejos también con su sabiduría. Por favor, únanse, no solamente para poner like, sino que para salir a las calles, porque llegó el momento, es ahora cuando podemos hacer la diferencia. Saludos a mi familia que me apoya mucho, a mis hijos y bueno, a los hijos de todos los que vendrán si nosotros actuamos y hacemos un mundo, o por lo menos nuestras comunidades más defendidas ante ese sistema que nos está atrapando. Resistencia a todos, resistencia a todos los colores del mundo y bueno, a seguir en la lucha porque eso es lo que estamos. Y millón disculpas a la traductora, hablo muy rápido. Gracias.
I agree that we have to take our spaces, all of the spaces that we are provided, but also we have to create bold statements, not only in participations with size demands, because we need to be involved in the negotiations. We come from we are here, we're taking different spaces like pavilions, platforms, doing speeches, and we are delivering messages with punctuality, where we are always trying to be up in the table and not down. And when the person up in the table doesn't listen to us, we fuck them, because we need to be in those spaces. The moment is now. The energy exists now. The synergy exists now, and it's the momentum. There's a solar eclipse happening right now, and that symbolizes change, especially now that we are here in Egypt for the conference. Is the time to break? Is the time to act? Is the time to take spaces, make speeches, and he salutes indigenous people, indigenous communities, Black indigenous communities, mothers, and asks them to ally, take spaces, and keep fighting. And he also salutes his family and the sons and of all of the people here that are going to come from the action that we take.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, for listening to us. Our fight is intersectional. We fight for climate liberation. We fight for indigenous sovereignty, and we fight for self-determination. And that will not happen if we do not work intersectionally, intergenerationally, because we need to fight for the liberation of all the people, for Black, Indigenous, Asian, all of us, because the climate crisis is now, and we need to act now. There is no planet B. Thank you for coming. Climate justice is racial justice.
Guardia, guardia.
We'll start